So the government have announced the revival of the Pensions Commission, which is very welcome news, given that there's lots of concerns that people aren't saving enough for their retirement, which potentially means that future retirees are going to retire with less savings and lower income than today's retirees. New analysis by the Department for Work and Pensions estimates that around 4 in 10 private sector employees are not set to reach adequate levels of pension saving, and therefore leading to lower living standards in retirement. And there's two reasons for that. The first is that simply lots of people aren't saving for retirement at all. We've had really great success with the introduction of auto-enrollment, which has boosted workplace participation saving, but the system does miss out some key groups, such as the self-employed, low earners, and those people that take time out of the labour market, for example, those with caring responsibilities. But the other problem is that lots of people remain at the auto-enrollment default contribution rates, which are currently set at 8%. And the original commission thought that lots of people would be making additional voluntary contributions on top of the default contributions set out by auto-enrollment, but that's largely failed to materialise, which is leaving lots of people, particularly middle and higher earners, short of their adequacy benchmarks.
So they are saving, but they're not saving enough, in other words. Will this commission be looking at that? Will it be looking at potentially upping the auto-enrollment levels?
So the Commission definitely hasn't ruled out increasing default contribution rates. They've made it clear that increases to default contribution rates won't happen this Parliament. It will definitely be a long run into any changes to the pension system. But yes, they haven't ruled it out, and increasing the default contribution rates is definitely the right answer for some earners, particularly middle and higher earners, but we should be cautious about putting too much pressure on lower earners who may already feel like they can not afford to contribute any more than they already are, and that could lead to unintended hardship or potentially higher opt-out rates, which would undermine increasing pension saving for that group.
But as you mentioned there, experts warning that people looking to retire in 2050 are in course to receive £800 per year less than current pensions if things don't change. This feels like a longer trend. It feels like a bigger issue than just fiddling at the edges.
Yeah, there's lots of reasons for that, and one really important reason is we've seen the decline of defined benefit pensions, which tend to be more generous than the defined contribution pensions, which most people in the private sector are saving in today. So yes, there's definitely long-term trends that are at play here, but increasing saving through increasing the default contribution rate is definitely one way to boost saving and potentially increase living standards in retirement for future retirees.
So let's talk about another way there. Another thing that's being talked about is increasing the pension age itself. Do you think that is a likelihood, or do you think it's just too politically toxic for a government to do that?
Well, the government have committed to undertaking a review of the state pension age, and there are good reasons for that. The rising longevity and demographic change, particularly the baby boomers moving into retirement, are putting significant fiscal pressure on the public finances through the state pension. So increasing the state pension age is one direct lever the government can pull to potentially alleviate some of that fiscal pressure, but we should recognise that it is a blunt tool and life expectancy varies across the country. And so while increasing the state pension age might be suitable for some people, typically in richer areas that are expected to live a long time, it may potentially penalise people who live in poorer areas of the country who have lower life expectancies.
And politically, do you think there would be a significant backlash? Is the government nervous of taking that on as an issue?
Politically, it could be quite difficult, but overall we've had quite strong consensus over the fact that the state pension age has been increasing over time. There was a little bit of backlash when the state pension age increased for women up to 65, but the backlash was more around the pace of that change rather than the fact that the state pension age was actually increasing. Places like France have definitely seen greater backlash than we've ever seen in the UK.
And one of the things that's really interesting in some of this reporting today is that this issue of saving is sometimes worse among women, among some ethnic groups as well. Why are we seeing that happening?
So auto-enrolment does miss some key groups, so those that are in lower paid roles, those that take time out of the labour market for caring responsibilities, for example. And we know that women are more likely to be in lower paid jobs, more likely to take time out of the labour market to look after children, for example, and that's leaving them particularly exposed to lower living standards in retirement because there's less opportunity for them to contribute, to make contributions into their pension over their working life.
Is that something, do you think, the government could at some point consider on its own as an issue separate from the issue that they're talking about today?
I think the government has committed to looking at improving adequacy across all these groups, particularly women. That's definitely mentioned in their announcement today. And I think there are lots of reasons for the risk to women, and it goes also outside of pensions policy. It's also employment policy, how you can support people in the labour market, how you can support people into better paid jobs so they have more opportunities to contribute to their pension throughout their working life.
The triple lock is not part of this commission. Liz Kendall says it's not part of the purview of what the commission will be looking at. But is that a significant issue as well here? Is that the thing that people don't really want to talk about politically?
The triple lock is another thing that is putting pressure on the public finances. The OBR estimates that the triple lock has cost more than originally anticipated. It's cost around 3 times more than originally estimated at the time that it was introduced, and that's because there's been more volatility in inflation and earnings over the period that we've had the triple lock. So it definitely is putting pressure on the public finances, but as you said, the government hasn't committed to looking at the triple lock, but definitely the state pension matters hugely for pensions adequacy, and the level of the state pension will definitely be considered in the pensions review.
But realistically, do you think down the line triple lock is going to become a part of this conversation?
I'd be really surprised if the triple lock didn't become a part of the conversation, particularly when you're modelling incomes for future retirees. You need to think about how the state pension is going to be uprated and what level of earnings replacement that is going to deliver in the future. So in some shape or form, I'm sure the triple lock will be considered as part of this review.
And just finally, long term, we're seeing the revival of this commission, which was originally a Blairite commission. Can we really predict what these commissions, the impact that changes in policies can have? Or are we going to get into a process where 20 years down the line from now, there'll be another commission which will again have to tweak the rules? I mean, is this a thing that you can make long-term policy on?
Well, I think we've seen huge success from the first commission. The fact that we've had the introduction of auto-enrolment, which has boosted participation rates in workplace pension saving. That's been a huge success, and that should definitely be recognised. There's also other recommendations in the first commission, for example, the new state pension, which is a flat rate higher state pension, which has played a huge role in boosting current pensioner incomes. So I definitely think they have a long-term impact, and the first commission was really successful, but now it's time to build on that success by expanding pension saving to groups who weren't captured by auto-enrolment when it was first introduced, and then also looking at the sustainability of the system and whether it's going to deliver adequate incomes for future retirees.
I said we were on our final question. I lied, because there is a wider issue here, isn't there, away from pensions, about people's savings more generally?
Yes, there is a concern that lots of people also have low precautionary savings. We know that around 3 in 10 working age adults live in families with less than £1,000 in savings, and that's leaving them exposed to financial shocks, which we saw during the cost of living crisis, which left lots of people unable to cope with rising costs. So we think that the Pensions Commission should investigate whether there's ways to introduce more flexibility into the system, which could potentially balance the twin objectives of boosting pension savings, but also boosting precautionary savings. And there's lots of policies out there which have been mentioned, most particularly sidecar savings, whereby people would initially put money into a highly liquid, accessible side savings account, and then money then flows into a pension account. So addressing the lack of financial resilience as well as boosting pension saving at the same time.
Well, Molly Broome, we will see what thoughts the Commission comes up with. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.